Welcome into Back Porch Sports. My name is Wes Blankenship, and this is now Back Porch Sports on Tackler Media. If you missed the big news, I'm a co-founder of a startup now. How crazy is that? Joblessness is no joke. And now I'm working again. I'm working with Jason Butt, formerly of The Athletic, and John Michaels, formerly of 92.9 The Game. And like I said, joblessness is no joke. But I wish that some of y'all's fireworks were unemployed. They were working way too hard over the weekend over my roof. I had sparks falling in the gutter, sparks falling in my lawn. Now that the fireworks shows are out of the hands of the experts, and they always have been, but now it's like everybody's shooting them. We had neighbors across the street, they had kids 10 years old. They had the mortars. They had mortars going off. It's like Lord of the Flies out here, man. This slot could be you. It could be an advertiser. Are you local in Atlanta? Do you want to reach millions of impressions each month? That's just from me alone. You add in Jason Butt and John Michaels at Tackler Media. Don't miss the ship. Don't miss the boat while you can. Let me know. DM me on Twitter or email me at wes@tacklermedia.com. And this could also be you. Even if you're not an advertiser, you could be signed up at tacklermedia.com. It's all free right now. It's a triumvirate, a trio. I'm a former TV guy, current digital guy, real guy, but I have a digital presence. John, radio guy. Jason, print guy. We're all coming together to tell you the sports stories in a way that you deserve as a Southeastern sports fan based in Atlanta. Sign up at tacklermedia.com. Just put your email in, and it's all free right now. I can't promise that it'll be that way forever. I'm going to be upfront. I'm going to be transparent with you. It won't be 100% free forever, but it's all free right now for the time being. I don't know how long it's going to be free. You might as well sign up now while it is and see what we have to offer. tacklermedia.com. Today's guest is Quincy Avery, a quarterback mentor based in Atlanta. Quincy tweeted about Morehouse. He's an alum. He tweeted about Morehouse missing out on sports and football this fall due to COVID and the economic impact that it's having on a lot of smaller schools. I spoke with Quincy about that. He tweeted on June 25th, Morehouse is canceling football. They haven't told their players yet. We have to do better. We talk so much about black athletes going to HBCUs, but don't provide resources to be successful. I'm extremely disappointed in my school. And Quincy said, I should clarify they are canceling the 20 season, unsure in regards to the program in the future. So I spoke with Quincy about that. Obviously, he's very passionate about it. But I also spoke with him about the quarterbacks he's worked with. Deshaun Watson, ever heard of him? Justin Fields, ever heard of him? And he's going to tell you some names to look out for this fall, presuming that we have a season. Here's Quincy Avery on Back Porch Sports. If you watch football, you know how important the quarterback is to the game. And this guy here, Quincy Avery, is working with some of the best young quarterbacks that you haven't heard of yet and some of the most established dynamic quarterbacks that you have heard of. Quincy, how are you this morning?
I'm doing excellent. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. And I reached out to you initially because you tweeted about Morehouse College and its reality with fall sports. And that's where I want to start out. You, as an alum of Morehouse, former player there, I just wanted to get your thoughts and hear your assessment of that decision and everything that's gone into it.
Yeah, the decision I was really okay with. I wish they would have either waited longer or try to determine what they needed in order to pull off a season, and then also talk with the athletes and had them more involved in terms of their decision. And what they felt was appropriate and involving their parents. Like, what do you guys really want? Rather than making the decision without informing them, and also without letting them know as soon as the decision was made. So that was my disappointment and frustration, and that's why I kind of sent off the message that I did. It was more so about them not communicating with the student athletes, because at a school like Morehouse, they don't necessarily have the ability to scholarship all their guys. So there's people who might be like a redshirt senior who only came back to play football, like might not have graduated intentionally so they could play another year of football, who've incurred a lot of debt to sacrifice in order to play the game. So people like that needed to know immediately. So if they wanted to transfer, had the ability to go to like maybe a Division I school or a school that was definitely playing this year, they should have been provided that opportunity as absolutely as soon as possible.
What has the response been with other alums, other Morehouse names like yourself? Is there any kind of action that you guys can take now, or anything that you're doing to, maybe help things out down the road?
Yeah, there's a Morehouse football alumni group. We have some former NFL players, a number of different other guys who are in communication about like, let's figure out a plan so that we can make football more of a priority at the institution. Because right now it isn't. So when football is not a priority or not something that you think about first at a school, you make a lot of decisions that are more school oriented or institution oriented than program oriented in terms of thinking about the individual players in that program.
Have you been able to speak with many of the players and kind of get together and see how you can help their causes out?
Yeah, I spoke with a number of players, and my thing was just how can I help you individually? Do you need me to help you find another school to go to since we're not having a season? Like, those are the questions that I'm asking them right now because we're so late in the game. And I do have a pretty good network of college coaches and coaches staffs who may be interested in the player from there. So I've just been trying to figure out how I can help them in the best way possible.
I think obviously it's really unfortunate for those athletes, and it's unfortunate for Morehouse athletics. I imagine a guy like yourself, you have to feel a little bit defeated. You don't play there anymore, obviously, but that's your school. So when you look at the toll that the pandemic has taken on that program financially, I think it is a wake up call in a way for other schools outside of Morehouse that could potentially be in trouble. What do you the implications and kind of the echoes of this could be at other schools that we're not really thinking about yet?
Yeah, it's scary times in terms of especially smaller programs, athletics, and their athletic departments. Like, if there's no games, these schools are not only are they at risk, but they're at risk of like closing down. Honestly, if you can't have guys on campus paying for meal plans, paying for room and board, that they're in serious trouble. So unless the government kind of steps in, I think that we might see the end of a lot of smaller schools athletics in general, and it's going to be the major revenue gainers only. So if you're not like a Power Five or a Group of Five school, it's going to be really tough, and it's also tough. And I support Title IX 100%, but you're supporting so many other sports that don't generate revenue. When that comes into play, it's going to be hard because you got to have 6 sports on the male side to be a Division I program, and you also have to have an equal number of scholarships for women athletes. So it's a difficult situation.
Um, when you think about HBCUs right now, too, the cultural moment that we are in, with more social awareness for athletes of color and their considerations of playing at the colleges they want to go to. I've seen more recruits and more athletes that are coming up through high school consider that, at least on Twitter. That's what it seems like. And I think it just sucks, man. Like, it's an unfortunate time where there may be an increased interest in a school like Morehouse, but now they may not have that opportunity.
Yeah, so Morehouse would actually be the perfect candidate because here's what has to happen for that for top athletes who are black male athletes to go to these HBCUs. like if people really want that to happen, it has to happen at a school that is both academically great, but then really cares about athletics. So for something like that to truly happen, I know guys are talking about it on Twitter, but it would be probably fiscally irresponsible for their parents to let them make that decision right now. Like, because a lot of the schools are not only underfunded in terms of athletics, but they don't put a focus on the athletics, right? They don't do everything they can to make those athletics great. So what they would have to do was say, all right, we're going to select this one school, right? We're going to select one HBCU. We're going to make that school funded completely in terms of athletics. We're going to go all in. We're going to put an athletic department that's honed and focused on making this athletic department great, and make them a Division I program and put them on track to join one of the Power Five conferences, right? That's what you'd have to do. And you'd have to bring them up one at a time, but you have to have one before the others can go. Somebody has to break the ground. And Morehouse would be the perfect candidate because it's an all-male school. You could save a lot of funding because you wouldn't have to put money into a bunch of other sports. You could say, hey, we're going to focus on football and basketball primarily. And you can make a real push to make that school the leader of this movement. But you need both the funding. So there's going to have to be someone step in like the NFL, the NBA, major corporations to start putting the money into these programs. And then you're going to have to get the infrastructure at these schools that are totally supportive of making these programs great.
When you work with the athletes that you do, with the quarterbacks and the high school football players coming up that you do, how much interest do you hear from them and kind of the deliberation of what that reality could look like based on, like you said, the more fiscally responsible decision that they could end up making down the road for their college choices? What do they think about where things stand right now?
I mean, I've brought them over to like Morehouse and Clark, and they've seen it, so they know like that they wouldn't make a decision like that, right? They've seen the facilities. I had an opportunity to go like the football office, like they see all the things that you'd have to invest in for them to be great, and it's like a non-starter. Like as soon as we see those things, they're out. Like no. I've been to like a Florida, I've been to like a Tennessee, I've been to like a UGA, and they've seen what it looks like where somebody's all in and has the finances to do it. So it's you would just put yourself at a position where you weren't trained in the way that was best suited for your success. So I mean, I wouldn't even ask them to do that.
You a lot of people call you a guru, man. A guru is like a spiritual teacher. Do you feel like you like, by the definition, like, do you feel like you have a little bit more of a responsibility to these kids than just teaching them the mechanics of how to throw a football?
Yeah. So I wouldn't call myself a guru. I would call myself like a mentor, like a quarterback mentor, because I do want to help them out on the field, off the field. Like it's more holistic when you're working with me. I'm not a transactional coach. There's a lot of coaches who do care about you. They train you and you write them a check and then you see them at the next session. And that's not who I am or the things that I care about. It's more important for me to show guys every day that I care about them, that I'm concerned about the things that they're doing, and that they can come to me with anything. So we have a lot of conversations that don't revolve around football. And I hope that it continues that way. And I hope that guys come to me and they don't only come to me for football, but they come to me because they know that I care about them and that's authentic.
You've worked with Josh Dobbs. Josh kind of got his start with you, and you had some early success working with him. You've worked with Deshaun Watson. When you see these guys grow up from high school athletes, in my career working in local news, like it's fun. Not that I'm a quarterback coach, but it's fun to see guys grow up and become the athletes that they are today. And you got to form that relationship with them and see them grow up. So specifically with Deshaun Watson, I know he's working a lot right now in the downtime that we all seem to have. What are you seeing from Deshaun? What are you seeing from him as a mentor figure to other guys, but also as he continues to take those next steps in his career as a quarterback?
It's so amazing to see the steps that he's taken in terms of maturity on and off the field. he's always been a great player, right? Like we saw that very, very early when his days at Clemson. You could have seen that in his days in high school at Gainesville High School. Like he was always a very, very talented player. But now that he's coming into his voice, he's understanding the leadership component, what it's like to be a leader, what it's like to take charge, and what it's like to impact your community, not just yourself, not just your team, but outside of you, like reaching his hand back and bringing guys with him. I see him be a major mentor to a number of the young college quarterbacks today. Like he's texting them, he cares about them, he's working out with them. Like those are the things that I see him doing. And I also see him making steps for like social justice, the things that he did at Clemson in terms of getting them to rename buildings and all the different things. And he walked with George Floyd's family. Like he's taking the right steps. He's maturing, and that's so cool to see somebody go from 16 years old, like a young man, to being a full grown adult and making all the right steps in terms of doing things right.
From a quarterback standpoint, I mean, he loses to the Super Bowl champions. Pretty tough game for the Texans. But what is Deshaun just objectively? I mean, he's awesome. He's got the whole package right now. But what are some of the just marginal things that you kind of see in his game that he could kind of elevate still?
Just becoming more consistent. He's losing somebody like DeAndre Hopkins, who's one of the best receivers in the NFL. So his next job now is to so you just don't have that safety blanket, right? When things break down, I can get the ball to Hop. Now he's got a lot of guys who do a lot of different things well. He has a lot of speed, but he's going to have to be a tactician. He's going to have to be he's going to have to play so well from above the neck. He's going to have to play on time. He's going to have to make great reads, and he's going to have to put his team in good situations in terms of making the right checks, putting them in good situations in the run game. So he's going to have to become a football savant, and he's going to add that with his Superman-like ability, and he's going to be an amazing talent.
When you look at quarterbacks from Georgia that are currently in college, you can't look past Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence. I mean, we don't know what college football is going to be this season. We don't know what it's going to look like. We don't know what kind of form it's going to take. But when you think about the decisions those guys have as they are now rising juniors, what do you think the impact of COVID on what the season could look like? I mean, they've got NFL decisions to make very soon. What do you think is going through their heads right now as you consider the reality that we're all in right now, especially thinking about everything that football will have to do to get off the ground collegiately?
Yeah, so let's imagine that this college football season is pushed back to the spring, and then NFL's like, yeah, we're still having the draft at the same time, just so you know. It would be kind of foolish for somebody like Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields to go out and play another season of college football when all they're going to be going off of is the previous year. They'd likely be top picks in the upcoming draft. Like, doesn't make much sense when I just got drafted to go play another year of college football, right? So you'd probably see a lot of these guys leave college and just start focusing on training for the next few months to make sure that they were ready when the draft process started so that they could go hit the field and be ready to go.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about that decision. It's like we've already seen a little bit of that movement with guys like sitting out of bowl games, but this is that to an extreme of we never could have predicted something like this. We never could have foreseen that a decision point would have to be made like, I didn't really play a season, but I still want to go to the NFL and I'm allowed to. So what do I do? That's going to be wild to watch. Justin specifically at Ohio State this year, just assuming that we do have a season, I mean, he looks incredible from his workouts right now. What are you seeing from him as he tries to take his game to the next level?
Justin's one of the most talented people that you'll ever come across, right? He has all the physical abilities that you could desire. So it would be hard for me. It would be hard for me to see him not be super successful. It's really difficult for someone. I mean, it's difficult to put into words how talented someone like he is. He's the perfect size. He's a great decision maker. He's extremely smart. And then put that together with the fact that he has a top 5 NFL arm, and then he has the ability to be dynamic with his legs and do all the other things if the defense just happens to be right. And he has to make somebody miss and make a big play. One of the stories I like telling people is um, when Justin was coming out of Elite 11, we were talking about some protection stuff, and he had a really good idea of what they were doing. And I'm like, so Justin, what if this guy comes in pressure? He's like, oh, that guy? Oh, I handle him. Like, if it's just me and one guy, I'm good. So things like that, that lets you know how gifted physically he is for people to put things like that on him. Like, you never hear another quarterback talk like that. If a guy's coming, they can't block, you're throwing hot. But it's his situation. It was, oh, him? Don't worry about it. I got it. I can handle that. And that is a special type of person, a special type of player.
When you look at the way his college career has gone, obviously Kirby Smart is handling the quarterback room a little bit differently. I mean, he handles it like a competition as if it was a running back room. What do you think about, or what do you think Kirby may have learned from the way that bringing in Justin Fields just a year behind a quarterback like Jake Fromm, how that situation played out? I mean, he's got JT Daniels now as a transfer. He's got Jamie Newman in the same room. Like, he continues to kind of stack these guys up. How do you think he's going to balance it down the road?
I actually agree with Kirby Smart's doing. Like, let me just get the best guys in the building. We're in a unique situation with the transfer portal. Like, no matter what, I can go get another guy every single year, and let me just keep stacking it up with other good, really, really good young guys, and we'll figure it out every year. Like, I don't know if Kirby Smart is thinks about the situation with Jake Fromm and Justin Fields in terms of who he should have played. Um, but it seems like it's working out. Like, he's still a top 5 program. Yeah, they didn't win a national championship. I think that Kirby's probably learned to communicate with the quarterbacks a little bit better, and I think that would help with some of the attrition in terms of guys leaving in the way that they did. And he's going to continue to get better with that. He was a newly minted head coach, and he had to kind of figure that out, and he was figuring out the new quarterback world. But now here we are, and he's got another really good one in Jamie, and another really good one in JT Daniels. So he's got a quarterback room that I think a lot of other coaches around the country would envy.
It is easy to look back with hindsight and look at the way the Fromm Fields competition went down. Um, I covered both of those guys in high school. I worked in Macon when Fromm was coming up through Warner Robins and Houston County. I covered Justin when I moved to Atlanta and saw him play at Harrison. And the way I thought about it, I'm not an expert by any means, but I never believed that a true freshman Justin Fields was going to be able to catch up to a sophomore Jake Fromm. A year later, I think all bets are off. But with hindsight now, it's easy to say that Fields should have started. But I don't think it was ever that easy in the moment.
Yeah, so I mean, Justin will tell you about how good Jake Fromm was above the neck, right? He didn't make any mistakes. He was always prepared. He understood things so well in terms of the offense and the things that they were running at Georgia. Um, but I'm sure Justin also knew about the physical gifts he had, the physical talents. Like, you know, it's a balancing act. One is like amazing here, and the other one's not so much. And then in the other area, it's here and here. So I think the sophomore year, Justin Fields' knowledge of the offense would have sped up, and it would have been like, yeah, we probably got to get him on the field. But his first year, it was probably like Justin Fields will make a few more mistakes mentally, but there's some things physically you can do that nobody else in college football can do. So it's just like, what do we want? What do we prefer? And then you go from there.
Looking specifically at Jamie Newman right now coming into Georgia, my biggest, I guess, question mark surrounding him is the level of competition, right? When you watch like Jacob Eason, for instance, in high school, when you watch the competition he played against, that was kind of my concern coming in to Georgia. Like, he's going to be playing against guys that are a lot faster, a lot bigger, a lot tougher. When you look at what Jamie Newman played against, I mean, obviously the guy's talented. I just still have to wait and see what his skill set looks like against better competition. It doesn't mean he can't do it. I have to wait and see before I can really guess what he's going to look like. What do you think?
Yeah, I understand that, and I think that that could be a fair concern. But he wasn't playing high school guys; he was playing guys in the ACC.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm not comparing ACC talent to high school football. Don't get me wrong. I just mean
Yeah,
the competition.
it's not as good a competition level, right? But the guys on his team also weren't as talented, right? He was going in there with the guys who were like, Clemson didn't want him, Florida State didn't want him, North Carolina didn't want. Like they're getting, they're scraping it together with the guys that they had. I shouldn't say scraping it together, but their talent level was less than a lot of guys that they played against, and he made those guys better to win a lot of games. So he was able to carry a group that wasn't as talented as other college guys going out there every week so they could win a lot of games. When you go to Georgia, every single week you line up out there, you're going to be as talented or more talented than the team that you're going to be playing against. Yeah, they may be a little bit more talented than the guys that he was competing against before, but they're not as talented as the guys he's going to war with. He's out there with the Roman army. The team that they're playing against probably has got a good army. You know, they got some tacticians, they got some guys, a sniper, this or that, but they don't got what the Roman army has. So I'm not worried about him in that sense. I just want him to make sure he understands the offense and understands what they're doing, and I think that he'll be in a great situation.
Yeah, man. I just hope we have a season. It's so fun to talk about all this stuff. It's so fun to guess and kind of break down what we think could happen. But there's just that unfortunate lingering thought. You know, I just hope it happens. I hope it happens. That's all. That's my only wish. Say it does happen. Some of the guys you've worked with, give us a couple names of guys that you're looking forward to seeing some specific improvements from, whether it's collegiately or in the NFL, and then I'll let you go, man.
All right, I'll go to the college world, and I'll talk about names that people should know, but they may not know. D'Eriq King, he's going to be at Miami. He redshirted last year. When he played his true junior year, he was a dynamic athlete. He threw the ball well. I think we're going to see an improved quarterback. He's going in the system that's really, really friendly. They have a lot of guys, and they have an amazing defense. They're going to make a run for the ACC championship. Then we'll move on to Florida, right? People talk all the time about Kyle Trask. In the same way there's Kyle Trask, there was Jake Fromm. In the same way there's
Kyle Trash is what Georgia fans call him.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to say that. So, Kyle, don't beat me up. Kyle is Jake Fromm. Emory is Justin Fields, right? So if we see Emory Jones get on the field, you're going to see a dynamic athlete and someone who has the ability to make every single throw on the football field. Next, I'm going to talk about a guy that you may or may not know. His name is David Moore. And if you watched Central Michigan last year versus the University of Miami, he was amazing. And he's one of the most talented quarterbacks in college football. He's going to be out a couple games this year, but when he comes on the field, you will see somebody who's an NFL talent. I could keep going on. I'll give you one more. I'm going to talk about Anthony Brown. Anthony Brown transferred from Boston College. When you saw him make throws at Boston College, you would think this is an NFL quarterback. Didn't have the opportunity to play a full season last year. He got banged up, tore a knee up, transferred to Oregon. He is going to come on the scene and become a draft pick in the top 3 rounds, right? He's that talented. Wow. You'll see him this year. He's going to be amazing, right? People are going to be like, wow, I had no idea he was coming. I'm not saying he's going to make a meteoric rise in the same way that Joe Burrow did, but he's going to go from we've never heard of him to he's in that draft conversation for the first 2 days.
I love talking to you guys that work out with these college athletes on their own, because, you know, to a certain extent, the colleges, and I don't blame them one bit, but they run like PR firms these days. They control their own messages, and we don't always get that glimpse into who's up next and what's coming up next. So I think that's some valuable intel right there. Quincy, thank you so much for your time. Go ahead and tell people where they can find you and about your business and what you have going on between now and football season.
You can always search me on pretty much any social media. Just put in Quincy Avery. But on Twitter, it's Quincy_Avery. On Instagram, it's Quincy Avery, no underscore. And then you can find out some stuff in terms of camps, other things we have going on at QBTakeover.com. You can find us on all social media, QB_takeover.
QBTakeover.com. Quincy, I appreciate it. Hope you have a great week, man, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Wes, I appreciate you having me on. You have a blessed day.
You too, man. Take care.
Peace.
It's an interesting time because McCord Maker just committed to Howard and HBCU in basketball. Football's a different beast. A lot more athletes to worry about on scholarship. And as Quincy pointed out, you got to have the resources to attract athletes away from those Power 5 schools. But, maybe basketball's a start. That's it for this week's episode. Y'all have a great week. Make it great for somebody else. I'm turning 30 this week. Very thankful for another year in these crazy times. Talk to y'all soon.